Today, we are breaking down a massive shift in corporate accountability, the new Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. We're talking about a change that introduces something almost revolutionary, a mandatory independent audit for a company's green claims. For years, that question has been so hard to answer. We've all seen the slick sustainability reports and the eco-friendly ads, right? But you're always left wondering, how much of that is real and how much is just, well, good marketing? That's the exact problem this new directive is built to solve. All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get into the whole greenwashing issue that created the need for this in the first place. Then we'll dive into the new era of reporting and unpack this key term, assurance. After that, we'll look at the rollout plan and finish up with why this all leads to what we're calling financial-grade sustainability data. So, let's start at the beginning. Why was a directive like this even necessary? Well, it really all comes down to a huge gap in information. And you don't have to take my word for it. The directive itself is pretty blunt about it. It points out that companies were basically cherry-picking their data, only sharing the good stuff while leaving out material information. This led to a reporting landscape that was frankly all over the place, incomplete, inconsistent, and pretty hard to trust. And this information gap has some serious consequences. Think about it. Investors are essentially flying blind, unable to properly price in climate risks. It makes it way harder to hit big targets like the Paris Agreement, and it creates what the directive calls an accountability deficit, a fancy way of saying companies can make promises without anyone being able to truly check their work. Okay, so that's the problem. Now let's turn to the solution and see how the CSRD built a whole new framework for transparency. The whole goal here is simple, but it is so powerful. Make sustainability data just as important, just as rigorous, and just as reliable as financial data. We're moving it out of the realm of a voluntary PR exercise and into the world of hard numbers. And this is the absolute heart of the new directive. This is the real game changer. For the very first time, this sustainability data has to be checked by an independent third-party auditor. This is the enforcement mechanism designed to make greenwashing a thing of the past. So you'll hear this word assurance a lot, but what does it actually mean in this context? Because it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. The CSRD actually sets up two different levels of audit. To begin with, everyone has to get what's called limited assurance. The easiest way to think about this is the auditor coming in, doing their work, and saying, okay, nothing has come to our attention that suggests this information is wrong. It's a really important first step, but it's not the end goal. Because the end goal, the gold standard, is reasonable assurance. Now, this is the same high bar that financial audits have to clear. Here, the auditor does way more digging. They test the company's internal systems, they check the controls to actively confirm the data's accurate. They give a positive opinion, which is like them saying, yes, based on our extensive work, we believe this information is correct. So to put it simply, limited assurance is like an auditor saying, we looked around and we didn't see any obvious red flags. Reasonable assurance is them saying, we've done a deep dive, we've tested the systems, and we can confirm this is accurate. That's a huge leap in confidence and reliability. Now, making that huge leap from no red flags to confirmed accurate is a big deal. So it's not going to happen overnight. The directive is actually pretty smart about this, laying out a gradual two-phase rollout. Okay, so here's how it's going to work. We start now with companies needing to get that first level, limited assurance. Then, between 2026 and 2028, the EU is going to take a close look at how everything is going and assess if the market, both the companies and the auditors, is ready for the next step. But the deadline is firm. By October 1st, 2028, the higher reasonable assurance standard is set to become the law of the land. All right, let's bring it all home. When you take a step back and look at this whole system, what's the big picture? What's the ultimate impact of all this? The biggest takeaway, the one thing you really need to remember, is this. Sustainability data is no longer a nice to have. It's now being treated with the exact same level of seriousness as a company's financial statements. It's officially graduating from the marketing department and moving right into the office of the CFO. And the ripple effects here are huge. For investors, it means finally getting trustworthy apple-to-apples data to make better decisions. For companies that are genuinely performing well, it could mean better access to capital. And for all of us, it's a powerful new tool to cut through the noise, fight greenwashing, and hold companies accountable for their promises. And that really leaves us with one final fascinating question. For decades, green claims have lived in a world of vague promises and unaudited reports. Now, for the first time, they're about to face the cold, hard scrutiny of a financial-grade audit. We're all about to find out whose promises were built on rock and whose were built on sand.